Welcome to the 7 golden rings of relationship success. Right now, what we have is class number 2. And I just want to go over that today on the unforgivable sin, class number 2. I want to go back just real quickly on this and just review on this. For last time, what we had, I want to just go over these just to make sure we're all on the same page. I'm going to read these. Number 1 on the 7 golden rings, Alpha rules all. Okay, number 1, we went over that last week, but we do have Abednego. We want to hit some pitfalls that we see all the time. I did get some more. I got a couple calls on this from some people that I'm working with, probably from me, I don't know, 4,000 miles away or so. And so we want to hit some of these as we go. Number 2, which we'll work on today. This is class number 2 again on the 7 golden rings of relationship success. Number 2 today, the unforgivable sin, which is don't be boring. The unforgivable sin is to be boring. And we're going to talk about that. We've got a lot of things that we've worked with over the last couple of years to develop this content on this curriculum. Number 3, we went over is that we talked about briefly last time, or we did not talk about, but we'll get to this next time. The number 1, irrefutable law. And then we'll do the number 2, irrefutable law. Number 5, that's a good week to show up to. Maintain emotional strength. Number 6 on this, we must have a healthy and regular outlet for sex. Number 7, shame relief. So that's just kind of an overview of where we're at. So for people who are jumping in late or whatever, just want to make sure we're all on the same page on that. Again, the 7 golden rings to relationship success. That is, by the way, just in case you're all wondering, on a PMC copyright on that, Positive Masculinity Crusade. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page on there. Today is a, Ragnar, we'll come to you in a second. I just want to go over this real quickly. There's a lot of people in relationships, okay, that bring this up at different times. And this idea about unforgivable sin, okay? And this is the thing that causes a lot of problems, this idea about being boring, okay? And we've developed some different things that we're working on and that we have developed over the years that I think really hit home. I think emotionally, there are really some charged things here that that really hit home with a lot of people, but I think a lot of folks lose sight of this stuff. And that basically it's a lack of leadership. It's a lack of imagination, okay? It's a timidity that jumps in here in our relationships. And so I want to put this on here somewhere along the way. We talked about before, and we'll talk about it again and again and again, is this on this alpha beta chart here that we came up with. And we like to be in here, okay? Right about 2/3 alpha, okay, is where we want to live. And so people run over here sometimes a little bit beyond this 2/3 point. And that's a really easy one too, Abednego, to find out, because people always want to say, hey, how do I know where I'm at? And how far is too far? You know, when you've blown by this compassionate alpha point, we call that compassionate alpha, okay? We know, because when you've turned into a jerk, you're not compassionate alpha in anybody's mind, okay? You're just a jerk. And how we know that is that you've lost influence for Christ. So this point right in here at that intersection, that's where you want to be. If you've gone too far to the right of that, too far over toward alpha, now we're just exhibiting jerk behaviors, okay? So I just want to make sure when I have that, I'm going to refer back to this at different times. We're going to get into some things right here that we're talking about on the 7 golden rings, okay? Don't be boring, okay? Again, class number 2 right here. And I think it's really important to go into this when we start up on here, Abednego. You know, one of the things that I think is really tough for people in a lot of ways is this idea about how to maintain energy, okay? How to maintain imagination, leadership, all these things that keep coming up. And so what we have developed and I think it's a really fun thing, it's one of the things that we love in our group, that we call string theory, okay? And string theory is one of these things that's really near and dear to our hearts, because not only it resonates, okay, on an emotional level. You're starting to hear more and more about string theory in society. They're talking about universe, okay? They're talking about creation of the universe, all these types of things. What we're talking about, string theory, is getting people's attention, okay? And this was one of the things that we developed maybe a year and a half ago, Ragnar, with a phone call that you and I had. And we were talking about, somebody sent you a silly YouTube deal here, and it's the 4 millionth one that somebody forwarded on to you about this silly cat and a piece of yarn and this craziness here. Ragnar, just to tee it up for us on string theory, because we've got 5 different points we want to cover on this. Just give us an overview there, Ragnar, if you would, on string theory.
Well, men in general are more like dogs, and I don't mean in a negative way, but I mean as far as like a good Labrador Retriever, you feed us a little bit, pet our bellies, we're pretty happy. Women tend to be more like cats. The more attention you show them, the more they avoid you, and they're more indifferent towards you. But then when you kind of leave them alone, forget about them, and act different towards them, the next thing you know, they're on your lap and wanting your attention. And so men are kind of open and honest. I mean, and if you got a player or something, that's a different ballgame. But if you, in general, the average nice guy, just wants fed and wants you to rub his belly, and he's open to tell you that's what he wants. It's pretty straightforward. But gals are a little more difficult because they're more cat-like that way. So just like a cat, you take a red shoestring and you have a cat in front of you, a female cat, and you're playing with that string, you can put a can of cat food down next to that cat, and she won't touch that food as long as that string is being moved and whipped around and moved. She'll be mesmerized by that string and interested. She will not be bored, and she won't touch that cat food. And so what we're trying to do, because women tend to be more like cats and men tend to be more like dogs, the string theory is to try to find ways to kind of keep her interested, sometimes subtle ways and sometimes in overt ways. Sometimes the string is almost not even perceived to be moving, although it is just slightly. And sometimes you're moving that string like a whip. But you want to make sure you're constantly keeping that attention. You're constantly keeping her a little off balance and constantly not doing the same routine. When she's expecting Tuesday night steak night, you're changing it up, and next Tuesday night, you're going to go have breakfast somewhere. You're just constantly keeping her a little off center and keeping her hamster spinning. Because like the Crusader said there, the worst thing you can do in a relationship is for a woman to be boring. They're very emotional. They're all over social media, Facebook, everything. They have to have their dopamine pinged about every 20 seconds, and especially nowadays. And so if you want to have sexy time and you want to have a validational sexual experience with her, you have to keep the string moving. You have to keep her interested. And again, sometimes it's subtle, and it seems like a lot of work in the beginning, but like anything else, it becomes unconscious competence pretty quickly. It's like driving a car. The first time you drove a car, you were 10 and 2, squeezing the wheel, and now you got 10 things going on while you're driving. So similar to that, you get unconscious competence to it fairly quickly, but initially you have to be mindful about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's really good, because one of the things that you touched on here is on my notes too. There, with all of us, anytime we start to have an increased awareness, okay. Now, it depends on where you live, what your home background is, how your programming works, okay? Maybe in 5th grade or 6th grade, 7th grade, you like some girl. You don't know any other strategy here except give your buddy a handwritten note to hand over to Susie. Do you like me? Do you want to be my girlfriend? One of these two. Will you go to the dance with me? Whatever. And it's real overt. It's real upfront about things, okay? And, Ragnar, the thing is that women want to be seduced, okay? But they don't want to know about it. They don't want to be telegraphed on these issues. And so it's really tricky on this. You talk about dog and cat and how this thing works. It's like anybody. You come from a sales background, so do I, okay? Everybody wants to be sold. I mean, and the line about that is that everybody wants to buy, but they hate being sold, right? And we do. We love to go buy stuff, but man, I hate to feel like I'm being Abednego, that I'm being manipulated in this thing. Okay. And so there's a lot of things that we talk about in here. It's not a question of if these things work, about how to keep romance in the relationship, how to keep some anxiety in there a little bit, maybe. Now, for Christian people who aren't used to that, it sounds like, oh, that's terrible. This kind of equity side in the relationship, up or down. Okay. The issue is not about, do these things work? The issue is about, can you do these in a smooth way? Okay. Because just because Abednego, something will work. Look, if your girl feels like she's being manipulated somehow, now she can't stand this. Okay. So it just can't be one of these deals. Okay. Also, I think sometimes when guys get into this thing, again, Ragnar, you talk about how men are, how women are, dogs, cats. I think it's a good analogy on that. I mean, we've all seen, whether that's yarn or not, or a laser dot, somebody will do this for hours. And this cat will sit there and play with this yarn, with this laser dot, and they'll starve to death. They'll ignore that perfectly good food that you put out there because they're so emotionally connected with this yarn, with this dot. They'll just leave their food, great smelling food, over here on the side, and they'll just leave that thing alone while they're just so busy chasing this yarn all around the place. So that's a really good tee up on that.
Well, and the key point on that is once you stop moving that yarn,
that's right,
she walks away.
Yep.
She needs to find other dopamine. She has an affair. She gets on, she starts talking to this. She starts doing those stuff on social media. She starts connecting with high school buddies.
Yeah.
From the old days. I mean, if that string stops, she's going to get her dopamine fix.
Yeah.
It's just you're getting right of first refusal on that.
Well, the question isn't, is she going to go do something else? The question is it going to be with you or someone else? Okay. Right.
Yep.
And because she's going to go find that hit somewhere. All right. And the only question is, man, are you going to be active enough? Are you going to have enough imagination? Are you going to be enough of a leader? Are you going to be enough in charge of this deal to keep her attention on all these things? The question is not about, is she going to find some old guy from high school or some reunion she went to? The question is not, is she going to find that person to get a chat going? Okay. Question is, are you going to leave her to her own imagination on these things, to go wander off and find other people who will keep pinging on that? And that's how we, like on some of these shows that we see on TV or at Hollywood about submarines and the military, Cold War, some of these things came out, Red October, whatever, is that you got to keep pinging out there. You got to keep pinging on these things to make sure you're in connection, to make sure that psychologically, emotionally, you and your significant other are on the same page on these. But if you don't keep pinging, if all you do is go home and sit on the couch, and now you're looking at TV all day long and reading the paper, if that's your deal, she's going to be bored really quickly. Okay, now that's just in life, but also, in the bedroom. If you're boring
another thing too is that sounds very intimidating to a newer guy, but in reality is his buddies on either side of him, his neighbors that live on either side and with their wives, he's not doing anything. So for him to stand out amongst her peers' husbands, he just got to do a little bit, because they're not doing anything at all. I mean, it's all the same old, where you want to go, I don't know where you want to go, local news, local sports, they got their own individual TVs. I mean, that's their lives. That's it. So for him to just differentiate himself amongst those other husbands, he doesn't have to do much. A couple times a month, plan an evening out and kind of not tell her about it till later, that kind of thing. But I mean, a couple times a month will suffice. And then work a little bit of game in as far as daily stuff, as far as being, not so passive and stuff like that. Be a little more assertive around the house with her, things like that. Don't just roll over every time she wants you to, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But as far as like outside stuff, a couple times a month, planning something unique is, and taking that decision-making process off her is really all you need, because her girlfriend's husbands aren't doing any of that stuff. And so she's going to feel like she's getting quite a bit, because she's going to talk it up to her girlfriend. But you just want to make sure, like the other stuff we've talked about around the house, you want to make sure that, you know, you got a little edge to you, so she respects you. But it doesn't take more than a couple times a month to make sure that cup's full for her. And so it's not a tremendous amount of work.
Yeah, you know, I think one of the things on this too is that, and I just want to let me just go back, and I just want to remind everybody on here, everybody's on a mute on this situation. If you have questions, go ahead and write them down when we get done with this, because we are, again, I want to remind everybody, we're doing a live feed on this, okay? And Ragnar's on here, Abednego's on here, I'm on here, the Crusader, and we're recording this live feed, okay? And so I just want to make sure whoever's got questions, we'll help you on, we'll address all of that when we hit the record button and turn this off when we're done with our content today. So I'm glad to see everybody on the call today. One of the things that we say about this before we get into, we've got 5 things that we want to go into on string theory, this idea of string theory that we've developed. Okay. And so we got 5 different things that we want to go into on this. We're a little bit short today because we've got a time crunch coming up. So I want to hit this real quick. Ragnar, you're talking about having a plan. One of the things that we always say, look, no plan, no man. Okay. If you don't have any plan about anything, then you're not a man. No plan, no man. Okay. And nobody's following you. No plan. Nobody wants to be in your team. Nobody wants to do anything. Abednego, touch on just a few minutes on no plan, no man before we get into string theory on that.
I mean, I think, you know, every woman, she for one, she wants attention, and that's kind of what we're talking about, but she wants the appropriate attention. If for a single guy, if she's not interested in you and you're trying to give her attention all the time, you become the creeper real quick. But if she's super interested in you, you can just meet her, and we just saw this on TV not too long ago. You can just meet this girl, and she's doing a TV interview, and you can go lay a kiss on her, and she's perfectly fine with it. And so there's, for a single guy, you've got to gauge what kind of appropriate attention that you can give. But when we're talking about the no plan, no man, that's, you know, that's attention too. That's attention to you being leader in your home, you being dominant in your home, you making decisions, and not that you're a dictator by any stretch, but she wants to know that you can make a decision about something. And so, guys, one of the best things you could ever do is when she says, where do you want to eat? Give her an answer. Tell her where you want to eat. She's asking you because she probably really doesn't care. She just wants you to be happy. And if you don't give her an answer, it really frustrates her. If you can't even decide where you want to eat, how are you going to decide where you're going to live, what kind of job you're going to do, how you're going to provide for her, how you're going to protect kids, if you can't make a simple decision like that? And so this whole thing about having plans is huge. It shows that you put thought in it. It shows that you've got some things on the ball. And so, yeah, we've said it for a while now, no plan, no man. And, you know, no fun time either.
Oh, yeah, I think one of the things is, and I'm going to start this off, and I want you to jump in, both of you, in a second here. I'm glad you brought that up, Abednego. Here's the thing on this. Number one on string theory, okay? There's 5 of these. And the number one thing on string theory is you got to have some mystery in what you do. So Abednego, when you said, well, no plan, no man, if she's got a question where you eat and stuff, you better have a plan. Now, one of the things that we found to be really successful on this, okay, is that if you have so that doesn't mean you have to tell her right now everything she wants to know, okay? Because there's nothing wrong with having a delayed decision, okay? And there's nothing wrong with an answer coming back. Some little mystery gets that little hamster going, okay? It creates a little anxiety in here. Where are we going? Where are we going? You know, it's like you have said before, Ragnar, look, it's a need to know basis here. You'll know when you need to know, okay? So, but because, and here's part of why we do that. I mean, if you want to break it down, you know, psychologically, because if you tell her where you're going before you even leave the house, you're going to get fit tested all the way there. And most people, good chance you're going to change your mind before you get out of the driveway about where you're going, because she fit tested you and you weren't ready for the fit test side. Okay. So one of the things about how you set that up, okay, is before you even leave, before she doesn't need to know everything. All right. She needs to know what time you're leaving and maybe what she's supposed to look like. If she's going down to some local Subway, then she can dress accordingly. That's totally different than you're going out to fish and chips one night, right? Or some barbecue joint in town. So all those things are about, and she might need to know that. You don't want to embarrass her, and don't tell her. If you're going to an upscale place, if you're going $40, $50 a plate, you don't want her to be dressed in a way where she walks in the door and feels like she's out of place here. So you don't want that deal. So, but you give her enough information that she's going to be safe and she knows you got a plan and you're going to go.
Okay. I tell you a nice dominant move that I use often and with great success, because they've not had it before, is you tell them what you want them to wear.
Yeah. Go ahead with that.
You tell them what you want them, we're going to go out next Friday at 6, and I need you to have a black cocktail dress. Well, I don't have a black cocktail dress. Well, you have 6 days to get one. And you don't budge.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, okay. And now her hamster's just spinning. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I work late till Monday. Well, I guess you got to figure it out. Amazon, whatever. Somebody's got some black cocktail dresses, but the boat's leaving at 6 o'clock Friday. I need you in a black cocktail dress. And I need you to make sure it looks good rumpled up on my floor. It's really a key point. But 6 o'clock, it needs to be ready to roll. And you tell them what, no man's ever told her what he wanted to wear. You tell her what you want to see. I want to see you in this.
Yeah.
And they'll push back initially, but I promise you that's a turn off.
Ragnar, let me say this too. Okay. One thing you'll start getting right away. Okay. Is she'll start sending you pictures of this dress or that dress or whatever. And I think
absolutely.
Okay. So when she's sending you, she'll send it on a text or however you guys work on this. Because if you let's just go ahead and while we're in the middle of this string theory, number one, let's go ahead and develop this a little bit. Because I think a lot of people, they somehow had a date back in the day and they stumbled around like a squirrel. A blind squirrel always gets a nut, this deal. And they got married and they don't even know what happened. They just got married. Now the kids, and they forgot about everything. So there's no more mystery. There's nothing going on. So while we're back here on string theory, number one technique is mystery. Let's go ahead and develop this a little bit. Now, obviously, we can do this at the end of string theory, but while we're in the middle of this, let's go ahead and develop this. So let's just say on a Monday, you tell her what you want her to wear, and you've got plans for Friday, and she needs to be ready at 6 o'clock. Okay. Now, what you can do, if you want a little bit more anxiety, you tell her to wear something there's no way in the world she has this outfit. That'll get her really humming. Okay. So if you're familiar with her wardrobe, if you're familiar with her closet, maybe she's got a walk-in closet, you find something that she doesn't have already. Dress up like a cowgirl. I mean, there's a whole theme we could go on this cowgirl deal. Okay. But you can do it any way you want to do it. I'm just saying that way you force her that she's engaged with this all week long. Okay. And so let me go back to you, Ragnar, since you hit that one real quickly. Okay. So you start off, okay, you're telling her what to wear and you're telling her what time on this thing. Now she's going to I'm just going to take a guess on this. Abednego, you say this on a Monday. How many times do you think? 5, 10, a million? What's your ballpark figure off the top of your head about how many times she's going to come back to you and question you and respond to you, text you, phone number? Ragnar, either one of you, how many times during the next 4 days is she going to have some kind of question about what's going on? Abednego, go ahead.
I would say between 20 and 50, maybe more. It's depending on the woman. Some women are a little more domineering, maybe, and they want to know, okay, where are we going? What are we doing? What's the agenda? Give me the itinerary. They want to know all that, and the worst thing that you could ever do is run all that past her. That just blows all the mystery. You know, the first time you do it, it's going to be scary. She will test like crazy. You know, it might not be the absolute best the first time you try it if you've not done it before. But if you can pass that to some degree the second time, and she'll fit test you a lot less. And the next third time, she will fit test you a lot less, because she knows, okay, he's got this under control. He knows what he's doing. He's not going to take me someplace where I'm in jeopardy. He's not going to put me out there and make me look the fool. So, you know, he's in control. He's displaying alpha characteristics. And so I can just relax and be a woman and let him take over on this deal. And then she can just kind of enjoy the surprises as they come. The first time, she's probably going to be really guarded. And so I think she'll fit test like crazy.
Let me go here, Ragnar. I want you to jump in on this too. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to rewind a little bit. Fit testing. Okay. If you're not ready for this, okay, just make sure you're ready on how this works, because when you come home for that, and maybe you're getting ready to, or maybe you're already ready from the office and you just show up at 6, you told her to be ready at 6, she's going to come out immediately. And her first stuff is, how about this? Is this the outfit you mean? Does this look nice? Do these pants make my rear look too big? How about my hair? And so you've got to be able to answer every one of these. Now listen, people, every time you answer this in the affirmative, you're passing a fit test. And every time you pass a fit test, you're moving up this line in her estimation. Okay. That's where you're going. You want her to see you here all the time in that 2/3 alpha, 1/3 beta. And every time you've passed a fit test, she views you back in here. You don't want to be over here in jerk land. You don't want jerk territory. You don't want to, this is no good, man. You can bludgeon some gal and get her all emotionally wounded and messed up in her head. This is no fun. Okay. And so what you're saying on this, Abednego, on the mystery side of this, okay, is that because most guys, they want to date, if they're going to spend some money, some time, they think this is going to end up in sexy time. Now, listen, your foreplay starts here Monday with this whole conversation. I think too many of the people make this mistake of they forgot about foreplay. So they just go home and their absolute foreplay move is they just point to the cock. And so this is going to do it, man. I'm going to go and I got my point to the cock move down and this is it. I'm hot. You know, no. If you want something to end up in sexy time, if you want to have a little romantic situation, start that morning if you don't know what else to do. But start early in the week better. Archie, one of the things, Abednego, that you mentioned earlier is that maybe 25, 30 times that she's going to come back to you. Ragnar, what's your idea on how that works on that?
Well, I want to solve the whole, does my butt look big in these pants or whatever question right off the bat. Anytime I'm asked that question, I tell them to turn around, slightly bend over, and I smack them right on the butt. That's how I handle that. And I say, maybe it looks just fine. But every time I get asked that, they're going to get a swat. Yeah. Swat, but not hard, not like, but I mean a nice little love swat on the butt. Yeah, it looks just fine. It bounces just fine. It bounces just perfect during that swat. Look, perfect. That's a dominance move. She loves it. I mean, so anytime you get asked that question, these pants look whatever, say, turn around. Let me take a look. Whack. Hey, your fanny bounces just perfect. Keep. Walk away.
There's no way to answer that question legitimately and not have an issue, And so,
smack that butt.
Taking that kind of approach and being playful with it, that's a good approach.
Well,
I got to see how it shakes, baby. I can't give you a straight answer until I see how it shakes. So turn around. Whack. That shakes just fine. Perfect. Let's go.
Well, I think one of the things is that people are afraid of this. There's two things that does. She's turned and bent over in front of you. All right. So we've already got this established. You whack her on the rear. You've already got the keno going. So you've already got there's good touch, bad touch. Ragnar, go into that just a second here.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. obviously that she's feeling there's a dominance there. All women, if they haven't been abused and they're straight, they want a dominant, assertive man in bed, and they want an assertive man in life. That's just how they're wired. I don't care if their hair is purple or whatever. That's what they want if they're straight and haven't been abused. And so, without question. And so, a little swat like that or whatever, telling her what you want her to wear on Friday night, these are all little dominance plays that make her feel safe. Now, one thing is great, the little swat on the butt, and like, I want you to wear this dress, and I don't have a dress, and all that stuff. Once this whole thing goes down, during that week, and then following that date, the following week, how many of her girlfriends are going to hear about all this? I mean, she's going to blow up her phone, Facebook and Instagram and texting, and all her girlfriends' phones are going to be humming about this. And so now all these girls are getting jealous around her, and they're going to want to know what's going on because their lives are boring. Their men aren't doing anything. And so she's getting all this reward, this dopamine reward from her girlfriends on this, because now they're part of the mystery. So tell me, where'd he take you? Where'd he take you? They're going to blow her up on Sunday morning. Where'd he take you? Where'd he take you? Where'd you get the dress?
Yeah.
Gosh, I wish John would do that.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. I mean, the girls will say that. I wish John would do that. I wish Steve would do that. Gosh, he didn't do anything. We always go to Lofters. Whatever. He doesn't do anything. And so not only is she getting this dominant, submissive thing from you, which is going to turn her on, which is why 50 Shades sold 150 million copies, by the way. And so you're doing it in a subtle way, but then all her girlfriends are going to reinforce all that stuff because she's got this great story to tell. And every time she tells that story, she's going to get pegged with dopamine. And then all her girlfriends are going to be jealous, which she's going to have envy. And then next time you walk into a room, a teacher's conference, where all her friends are there, they're all looking at you differently now, which is going to give you pre-selection. I mean, so it's just a win-win-win for everybody. That makes sense?
Yeah, this thing here, when you talk about pre-selection, that's a concept. I just want to make sure that we all understand before we move on. Again, we're still in, if you're joining us late, the 7 golden rings to relationship success. This is class number 2. Okay, now class number 2, I just want to make sure we go back here on this. Class number 2, this is where we're at. Okay, the unforgivable sin is being boring. And you just don't, hey, you got to stop that. Okay, we don't want to be boring.
Crusader, what I just described there about her having a story for her friends.
Yes.
And then you swatting the fanny, and then you got to wear this. I need you to have this dress by Friday. Is she bored during any of that, you think?
No, there's no boring.
And then next week when she's telling a story 18 times to her girlfriends and whomever will listen to her, is she bored then, you think?
Yeah. This is not, and here's the other thing. You've taken a command side of this. Not over here in a brutal way. We don't have to go there, guys. We do not have to go to turn into a jerk to get control of this situation. This is all handled through nuance. Remember that we talked about. Now I'll go back here again, because somehow along the way, this nuance thing, now because we just want to bark at someone or club them over the head, or listen, you can do all this. This is all nuance. All you did was say, hey, I got a great evening planned. I need you ready in this outfit at 6 o'clock. That's it. We don't have to go down here and hurt somebody emotionally. Okay. Now, so you're going to be ready. Number 1 is for the fit testing. Okay. This pre-selection side, do you really think when she's got this going, Abednego, that she's worried about some old classmate on Facebook, some guy sent her a chat, when she's got you back here whipping that string all over the place, right? This is not something you need to worry about. So all you're doing on this is taking the lead. Okay. You're soundly positioning yourself over here in this attitude here of compassionate alpha. That's all you're doing. Okay. And I think one of the things that we probably haven't spent enough time on, we did talk about it last time when we talked about David, pre-selection. Okay. So when she's telling all her girlfriends, all of this pre-selection works. And one of the things we always say, I think we talked about this last time, and I might be wrong on this, but every girl wants to be with somebody. All right. Who other girls want. And depends on your vernacular, how you want to use that. No girl wants to be with a guy who nobody else wants to sleep with. Okay. So if she's running them along on this string all during the week about this date and about how this goes, all these other girls are getting tingles, not just your own babe. They're all getting tingles on this, you know, and I think one of the things that we have a problem with is this imagination side, because guys just want to know what board to cut and what to saw and where to hammer the thing and figure the thing out. We all live in this place over here of algebra, and algebra is just, in real life, algebra's boring. No one's excited about algebra. Okay, this comes from the wrong part of the brain. Okay, but that's how guys operate. You know, when you talk about being a cat, you know, Ragnar a little bit earlier, cats, they don't like algebra. I never saw a cat out here on the porch trying to figure out algebra. Okay, this is not something that gets them excited. But all of a sudden a yarn comes along and they just run all over the place, or a laser dot, or whatever. You throw a ball by there, they'll go chase this thing forever while they starve. And their great food is a foot away from them. Okay, this pre-selection is powerful. So when you got this date set up now, just remember, the more she tells all her buddies about this, she'll go tell her mother, mother-in-law, her aunt, her sister, her friends at work, whatever. And they're all can't wait to find out what did he do? Okay, just like you said, Ragnar. But it's developing all this, what we call pre-selection. And so all these other girls are excited about you now too. And now they want to see you at the grocery store.
I'm going to tell you, when she's also going to tell them about, you're not going to believe it. I went and asked John if my butt looked big in these pants. He told me to turn around. He had to see something. He smacked me on the butt. And he said, yeah, they shake just fine, baby. Let's go. And she's going to tell all her girlfriends about that too. I mean, all of them are going to know about that. And they're going to love it.
Yeah. Well, listen.
You want to unthaw a dead bedroom. That's how you do it.
Well, listen now. You talk about thawing out bedroom. Look, none of those people have this either. When was the last time any of them got smacked on their rear by their own honey over it? They're not doing this deal, okay? They're too worried about some game or the Little League, or if something looked good in the picture or whatever. They don't have time. So mystery is, right? You got to create this spinning around on here. Now, when I said before, because we're going to get on to number 2 in a minute, we've got enough time to develop all this stuff. So we don't have a problem here. When we talk about be ready to pass a fit test, I'm going to back up a little bit and let's just view into everybody else's life. Not your life, not our lives, everybody else's. Okay? Here's what everybody else does. And without being too mean and without making fun of people and being too weird about it, we zoom out to a typical guy and a gal, and they're in their car and they're going to eat. I want you, Ragnar and Abednego, I want you right now to play out so we can all watch this. You guys are both driving down the road in the vehicle. I want you guys to go ahead and play this out. I didn't tell you I was going to do this, so I'm kind of catching you off guard. I want you guys to play out about what an ordinary conversation looks like going to find somewhere to eat. Go ahead.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, I'm hungry too. Where do you want to eat?
I don't know. Where you want to go?
Oh, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, I could eat anywhere.
How about some spaghetti?
I don't know. I had that yesterday. I don't think I really want that.
How about some cheeseburgers?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm feeling cheeseburgers today. I don't know.
How about some hot chocolate syrup on your chest and I lick it off?
All right, let's go.
Hey, let me jump in.
Mine never gets that far.
Let me jump in here because we want to somewhere we are going to keep this family appropriate, and but I think in the vein of the PG-13 environment, I think everybody's excited for dumping chocolate all over everybody's chest, but we're never going to get to that point if we can't pass fit tests about if we're going to Taco Bell or McDonald's or spaghetti. It doesn't matter. We got to be able to pass this. Okay. So here's part of the problem on a date is that we give too much information too early. Okay. Now on the mystery, for the mystery to work, it's just look, it's just like Santa Claus. Okay. If you tell everybody what presents they're going to have and how it's going to work, and you do this 2 months early, do you think anybody's excited to wake up and go down and check out the Christmas presents out here? Okay. Nobody's excited for this. There has to be some element of mystery. Okay. And the longer you can hold that mystery, the more they get the tingles, the more they're excited, the more they sent 5 more text messages out to all their girlfriends. Okay. Believe me, you think you're the only one on this date. You're not. There's 7 girls coming along with you on this date. Okay. And the more exciting this gets, the more they want to tell all their buddies and find this out. Okay. So many times, now this doesn't happen every single time we go to Taco Bell. Okay. Because you can overdo this sometimes also. That's a common thing that people get into. But when we're on a real date, we're on a planned date, you know what? My girl doesn't know where we're going, when we're going. She doesn't know anything. I might tell her within 50 miles where we're going to end up. That way, maybe if she wanted to go pick up something over there that's nearby in that town, we could swing by. Okay. So that's fair enough. Okay. But a lot of times she won't even know till we go. She kind of know maybe what road we're turning. She'll ask me, I promise you, she'll ask me 3 times on the way when we're driving 30 minutes away. Hey, can I ask you, I know I'm not supposed to ask, can I ask you where we're going yet? When can you tell me? Okay. Now, at this point, emotionally, right, Abednego, who's in charge of this thing? Who's doing this thing? Okay.
Right. You start allowing her to dictate things if you're answering all her questions.
Yeah.
And so, you've got to stay away from that and give limited, minimal information.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to kind of throw out there too is if your mystery thing is you're taking her someplace really nice, don't tell her she's only got $20 to spend. You know what I mean? I mean, that just ruins everything, because then she's got to do calculation in her head. Wait a minute, I could get the clam chowder but man, I can't. I won't be able to get the chicken cordon bleu. Well, what else? What can I, yeah, she's doing algebra, and, this whole thing is about, invoking her imagination and just letting her be a woman and not having to figure out the minutia and all the details of everything. And so, don't put a cap on something. If you go to a really fancy place and you can't afford the most expensive thing on the menu, probably shouldn't go to the fancy place. Go somewhere else. Go to the second tier place. But you don't want to put those caps on things, because it's just going to cause you issues. You're not going to get the result you want.
Yeah, one of the things I would say on here, I want to go back. It's really important on this, and I want to say a quick point on this. I'll go back to you a little bit, Ragnar, okay, on this. I want you to develop that a little bit on a need-to-know basis, okay? And because there's some dialogue that it's got to be tight. Again, when we talk about, this was brought up the other day, when we talked about what game are you playing, okay? Why are you in this game, all right? And because what are the rules? There's rules, whether you want to think there's rules or not rules. So again, everybody wants to get married. They run to the church house. When they want to get a divorce, they run to the courthouse. Why? Because there's more favorable rules for them at the courthouse. If they didn't think so, they wouldn't go down to the courthouse. Okay. And all divorces, 70% of them are initiated by women. And let me tell you, we don't even need to guess. How many of these divorces do you think are initiated at the church house? Okay. There's nobody going down to find a preacher man and start.
How many of those 70% that initiate, those 70% of women, how many of those women were bored, you think?
Dude, listen, man. They're all bored.
I mean, if they were excited and having a good time and there's mystery and the strings being pulled, are they going to get a divorce?
Or what?
No. Well, listen, let me back up. If there is mystery, they're having some sexy time. I mean, sometimes, listen, in all fairness, sometimes not all the body parts work the same as we get older. Okay. So not everybody's, what it was saying, who's our man Kramer here? He feels like a preteen Swedish boy, it doesn't always work that way. As you get older, things don't always work. I want to go back to Abednego. I think one of the things we had all of our PMC guys, we have quite a group out here really in our local area. There's anywhere from 40 to 50 guys that could be answering the call when we go out on date night. And a lot of us meet together at different times. We've done this. One of the things is we all make sure what the menu is, okay? We all understand how this works. a couple of years ago, we went out on a Valentine's Day. We had a great time. And we went over this because it's got to be choreographed. And it's really funny because we showed up and none of the girls, they looked all around and they started dying laughing because they all knew each other, but none of them knew where we were going to be. And it was really good. Okay. So there's an emotional release. We're all having a great time. One of the things is, you talk about the menu and different items. Don't go into a place if you can't afford the most expensive thing. So just scale it back a little bit. Maybe it's not this local mom and pop deal. Maybe it's a Red Lobster. If you don't do that, you can always work back down to Taco Bell. It's fine. And now listen, you can have a great time at Taco Bell if you know how to work this thing. Okay. So, and don't be chintzy on the tip. This kills everything because nobody wants to be with a tightwad. Don't fight over receipts. Don't get out your calculator. Listen, on this whole date, if it's going to work to your favor and you're going to have some sexy time at the night, don't bring out your calculator. Don't bring out your phone, your phone on this deal. Don't bring out the tip calculator to try. Just do the thing. Figure it out. Okay. So when she asks, how about this? Can I have this? Can I have that? Everything is yes.
Last night I did this for $22 total.
Yeah.
Went through a Subway, got some sandwiches, had a blanket in the back, went to the park, laid at the blanket, ate the sandwiches. She laid back on my chest, looked at the clouds for about a half hour. Then we went nice hand in hand walk around by the stream. Yeah. And then we went and watched a movie. And to her, that was just, she's a time and touch person. So that's time and touch. Yeah. Both those cups were filled for her for $22.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be, and I handled it. I said, get in the car, let's go. I went through Subway, where are we going? Don't worry about it. And we got to the park and then we laid back and we're on a blanket. And I mean, and I guarantee you, all her friends know about that today, It cost me $22.
We did a drive-in thing. Expensive. We did a drive-in thing this past weekend, under $25.
Yeah.
And that's concessions and getting in, and it was a great night.
Yeah.
There you go, man.
What's this, Bendigo, what's this drive-in? Movie or McDonald's? What are you talking about?
Drive-in movie. Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
And since there's no new movies being released right now with all the COVID stuff, it was a retro movie. So it's back from our time period, the Goonies.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
it was a good time.
Let me go here because I want to go back to Ragnar on this. But for single guys, let me throw some stuff for single guys because this works really well too. Okay. So how you want to approach this. Now this works in the marriage time too, but I just want to make sure all our single guys out there are with us on this. So it's not about, hey, do you want to go out and grab something to eat? Okay. That's not the deal because now you're just going to fight over where you're going to eat. Okay. So if it's a real quick thing, maybe you're in college, maybe you're out around, maybe you see somebody at church. Okay. It's about, listen, I'm going to here. Do you want to come along? All right. And then we're not fighting over this whole thing. Ragnar, I want you to take us through some of the scenarios that you've talked to us about before on a need to know basis. Okay. Kind of walk through that dialogue, how you work that out there. And I think, if you can do that for a minute or two, that just give us some insight on that. Because I think how you can deal with this up front will help us to get past all these fit testing issues later on as you go down through the date. Okay.
Well, what you want to be doing is you want to be really comfortable. It goes back to last week, the 5 C's of alpha communication, or we talk about Christ communication as far as being centered.
Yeah.
You want to be, because you want to be comfortable with silence and pregnant pauses in these conversations. And that's where a lot of guys make a mistake, because when you want to be comfortable just sitting there waiting for an answer, or she asked you a question and not responding, you want to be comfortable with that. And that's uncomfortable. Yeah. And most guys aren't comfortable. Most nice guys aren't comfortable with that. They will fill that void with chatter, which makes them look weak. So in a situation I've had, this happened exactly like I'm about to describe. I was talking about going to music when I was just dating this woman, just starting to date her. And I said, I want to listen to some music. I'm going to go listen to some music this weekend. And I haven't decided if I want jazz or blues. And are you interested in going? She goes, where are you going? And I said, well, if you're not going, there's no need to know. So it's a need to know basis. If you're going, then I'll let you know where I'm going. But if you're not interested in going, then I'll just go on to the next one. well, no, what do you mean? You know, and I was calm, just quiet and listening, and no need to know basis. And no, okay, I'm going. I just want, and because she's kind of a control freak a little bit, and so I said, where you're going, then we're gonna go here, and I'll pick you up at this time, and that's what we're gonna do. But it's being comfortable with uncomfortableness. That's a key, because that shows confidence. Because if you can sit there when you ask a question or she's saying something and it's uncomfortable, she asks a question and you're just kind of smirk, you don't feel a need to fill that silence with a bunch of chatter like most weak men do. That gives her confidence. I mean, you're in control, but what, guys? Not controlling. You're in control, but not controlling. You're not letting her string influence you. Your string's influencing her. And you can sit there calmly and let that string whip around you and you don't budge. You just calmly smirk and whatever. That's a huge part of that game. If you blink during this stuff, when you say, if she says, my butt looks fat in these pants, you turn around, let me see. Whack. Looks fine. It shakes fine to me, baby. And you just kind of walk off quiet, calm, no bunch of dialogue. Because if you don't start doing a bunch of dialogue after that, you're going to ruin the effect, right? You guys know that. I mean, you just don't say much.
Yeah.
It'll be a little tighter for me, and then move on. It's done.
I think, that's a really, hey, if you're not going to go, you don't need to know where I'm going. Okay.
And I said it with a joke. I mean, I wouldn't,
that's right.
Mean,
that's right.
No, baby, if you're not it's a need to know basis. If you're not going, then you don't need to know.
Yeah. Well,
she went
immediately. Okay. We got this hamster running around. Okay. So as we move on to variety, we've hit on some of these, I think this has created, all we're trying to do here, Abednego, is create some emotional space in here. Okay. So I can't tell you in the last couple of years how many times I've just said, hey, I'm going to McDonald's, I'm going to Arby's, I'm going here, I'm going there. Anybody want to come? I'm telling you what, every single time should be right there, jumping in the car. We're going. We got this doing. Now, I have tried, because there's always A/B testing. Okay. Hey, I want to go get something to eat. Anybody want to go? Nobody wants to go. All right. But if you have a specific place and you do this, so that's a little bit, it's taken one step out of it, Ragnar, from what you're talking about. Okay. But then I'm not arguing all the way where I'm going, what's going to happen, why are we going here? I don't want to go there, because sometimes if we got the whole family in here, I got 4 or 5 people in the car, I don't want to deal with it with all these people. Okay. Now, This is where I'm going. I'm going to that's it. You jumped in, you knew the deal. I'm going here. That's it. Now, it doesn't have to be some top-down scene. I'm just saying, if you want variety, if you want to create mystery, right, and stay away from fit testing every which way. Because if you can't pass the fit test side, okay, let's go back there real quick. If you can't pass the fit test side and you lose out on this right here, then everybody in the vehicle is going to see you as the beta guy. All right. But there's just nobody getting tingles from beta. All right. So variety is important. That's number 2 on string theory.
Hey, Crusader.
Yeah, go ahead.
To pass a fit test, you got to be able to recognize it.
Yep.
And so, one of the things we've talked about before is we do the second date rule. And if what she just did or said, that reaction that she had, whatever, if she would have done that on the first date, would there have been a second date? And that's a pretty good way to determine whether or not you just got fit tested.
Yeah.
And
go ahead and talk to me about that a little bit, Abednego, on the second date rule. Like, how does this even work?
Well, there are things that she may say, comments that she makes, the way if she rolls her eyes or whatever, that's a test. It's testing your fitness to be a man. And if she would have made that comment, rolled her eyes that way, whatever, if she would have done that on the first date, would you have been going, man, I really want to date her again? I can't wait to go out with her again after what she just said or after what she just did. Nah, you wouldn't, but when you get X amount of years into the deal, or you're married, that it's not an option whether or not we're going to have the next day and the day after and the day after. And so, you know, you've got to be able to pass those fit tests, because you diminish, you begin to slide down that beta scale. Everything that you've been taking, all the progress that you've been making, little by little, you start to slide backwards if you can't pass the fit test. Because a fit test just means that you're the guy. You're the guy she's looking for. She's testing you to see if you're the guy that she's looking for, that she wants, that she needs. You can keep the bears away, and you can keep everybody fed. You put food on the table, all that. And so that's what it is. The fit test is just about testing to make sure that you're the dude that she needs and that she wants. You got to pass it.
I think, Abednego, here's one of the things. We talk about variety. I don't know if ballroom dancing is a real part of everybody's life out there, but let me tell you that. Absolutely. Let me, in fact, I'm going to come back to you, Abednego, and because I want you to develop that a little bit. And I'm not trying to put anybody in the spot here, but variety. Okay. If you haven't been ballroom dancing in a while or ever in your whole life, go do this thing. There's a couple reasons why we want to do this. Now, single guys, this is a huge and easy and very fun way to vet your girl that you might be interested in. Okay. So somewhere around in there, way before date number 10, sign up for some lessons for ballroom dancing. Okay. If this girl, listen, Bendigo, take it over from there. I don't want to steal that one. Go ahead.
I might do that way before the 10th date, because by the 10th date, you might really like her. And you want to vet this puppy out really early. And so how it goes is, one of our things that we did with our PMC group is that we had a guy within our group that is a very good dancer and very good teacher. And we decided we're going to learn how to ballroom dance. So we're going to do some dancing. And, you know, before I go any further, I just want to say I'm a recovering beta male. I'm making progress. I'm not where I need to be yet. And so I've got to put this out there, because everybody else is having a great time. I'm having a miserable time, because the key to ballroom dancing is one person has to lead and the other person has to follow. That's the key. If you do that, it doesn't really matter if you have the steps perfect. You know, you want to have them close, obviously, but somebody's got to lead and somebody's got to follow. And if the person who's following will follow everywhere that the guy's leading, if she will follow everywhere the guy's leading, then it's beautiful. It works perfect. Let me tell you, though, it's a disaster if you're trying to lead and she's trying to lead. And that's exactly what happened with us. It was not fun at all. You know, she was miserable. I was miserable because she was trying to lead and I was trying to lead. I'm stepping on her and she's stepping on me. And, you know, she's like, that's not the way it happens. And I'm like, what's the way it's happening here? You know? And we ended up leaving earlier than everybody else, just because it wasn't what it should have been. And we've talked about it since then. I think she realized that it wasn't the way she should have acted. But, you know, like I said, I created that. I created that through years and years and years. And so, you know, after the dancing, and I'm reflecting back on it, I was sitting there thinking, man, I should have done this when we were dating. You know, I don't know if it would have changed anything. But, you know, it definitely establishes whether or not you can lead and whether or not she can follow. And that is super, super important. And so, yeah, I'm a huge fan of ballroom dancing early in a relationship to vet that thing out.
Bendigo, let me say this too, because before that time, and I bet I could safely say this for about every guy in our class who was there at that night at that ballroom dancing situation. That's my first time. We didn't know anything about it. Okay. But I'm telling you, it was a lot of fun. and it can be a lot of fun. But, you know, if you're in a vetting situation and you're not married yet, and you're trying to figure out if somebody can let you take the lead, or if you can take the lead, I mean, because those are two different issues, right? Then listen, put that on your vetting list. We'll have a whole other class in here where we talk about vetting. But this, we'll revisit this again. And if she can't follow you in the ballroom dancing, let me tell you what, you need to move on. And some people think that's harsh or that, no, listen, everyone's going to be miserable for a long time, okay, on this. And so go ahead, Abednego, you had another point.
I would also say this for a guy who's single, go, I would take classes. I mean, going back, knowing what I now know,
yeah,
I would go back and I would take ballroom dancing classes. So when it was time to dance, I would know what I'm doing. But also, that's a dating rich environment. I mean,
100%.
there's lots of women there and not many guys, and so you're going to get a dance with a lot of different ladies, and you know, those are just reps. Being able to hold conversation, being able to keep attention with different people, you know, that's just
being proximity type,
that's,
you know.
Yeah, it's just
No, I
working
heard
that
a
muscle more
statistic.
and more.
I heard a statistic that said 90% of women want a man that can dance, and 0.1% of men can dance. 90% of women want a guy that can dance, and 0.1% of men know how to dance. My dad, who knew how to dance, told me early on, he says, if you learn how to dance, you will always have a full dance card. You will never go without a date. I taught the same thing to my son. My girlfriend and I, we just did ballroom dancing for until the COVID hit, for like 3 months straight. You know, we were doing it every Tuesday night. She loved it. And let me tell you something. There's 18 women in there, and me and another guy.
Yeah.
And talking about setting up pre-selection, because I'm sitting there dancing with my girl, and we're flirting around. I'm just patting her on the butt and things like that. And I got 18 other women there alone taking these lessons.
Yeah.
I mean, if you talk about pre-selection and everything else, I mean, you don't have to do anything. You just show up. I mean, it's a great skill to have. It's huge. It's a huge differentiator. You know, we talk about marketing and sales. We talk about the USP, unique selling proposition. You want to have a couple obvious unique selling propositions that they can figure out early, and then you want to have 4 or 5 unique selling propositions that they discover as they get to know you by surprise.
Yeah.
And again, it's the mystery thing and stuff. But if you know how to ballroom dance, you know, if you can take her and swirl her around a couple times, and my gosh, it's you know, I mean, talking about, again, telling her girlfriends the following week. He took me out to dinner, and then we had a free ballroom dance lesson, and then we did this, and then we did that. I mean, gosh, her friends are gonna get tired of hearing about it. I'm jealous, by the way.
I think one of these on variety. Well, let me keep moving because I know on time we can come back to this.
Yeah,
so
we got 35
somewhere.
minutes.
And so we want to make sure we get all this. Number 3 on string theory, okay, is compassionate indifference. And I think this is a lost art on this, if it ever was something that was common. I have to believe it's more along the lines of your dance statistics on that, Ragnar. Compassionate indifference, okay. There's an aloof side of this thing that works, and we've developed a subcategory on this. There's one of these things on compassionate indifference. Go ahead with compassionate indifference here, Ragnar, because I think what we find in today's world is everybody yelling on Twitter, everybody's screaming about something on Facebook, and everybody is out there. All these guys are out there just taking this bait on all this stuff. Compassionate indifference, okay? How do we move that? Now, number 4, we go dry sense of humor. They're real closely related, but we've put them as 2 different categories, and we'll get into that here in a second. Ragnar, if you would, compassionate indifference. Where do we get that? How does that look like?
Well, we kind of gave some examples here in our discussion. I mean, one of them is like, you know, need to know basis. That's kind of a compassionate indifference. You know, you're indifferent if she's going to shriek or she's going to laugh or whatever. You're just kind of indifferent. You're not going to let her response budge you. You know, if she goes, fine. If she doesn't go, that's fine. You know, you turn her around and you swat her on the butt. You know, when she asks if her pants are too tight, butt too big, you swat her on the butt. You're indifferent to how she responds to you. She may be act a little upset. She may act happy. She may just get red. Who cares? I mean, you know, one of these ballroom dancing lessons I was at a couple months ago, instructor was giving us some lessons, and my girl was kind of butting some questions. Well, how about this and this? And I just said, turn around, whacked her on the butt in front of the 18 women and my dance instructor. And I said, now turn back around and pay attention. And she just turned red, smiled, bit her lower lip, and was glowing. You know, and all those other women saw me do it. And how many of those 18 women have read 50 Shades, you think?
Yeah.
So it was just a dominance move, but I was indifferent to if she got pissed at me or happy or whatever. It turned out to be a good thing, but I was indifferent about that. It wasn't, I didn't make an ass of myself, but I was indifferent to I didn't care how she responded. You know, I just did it. You know, it was muse mastery on my side. I was having fun. So and then my dance instructor, she started laughing too. It didn't turn red. I mean, it was fun. And, you know, took care of it. And then she behaved and paid attention the rest of the class, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, and do you think I slept cold that night, by the way?
Yeah. I think we all know where that ends up. All right.
But muse mastery, I mean, you're just muse indifferent. I mean, the compassionate indifference is just, you don't, however she responds is not going to phase you.
Yeah.
You're maintaining your center, no matter how she responds.
Yeah.
And so if you can do that, that gives you the courage to take chances. That gives you the courage to make decisions about where you're going to go eat, to plan the date, to handle my butt look big questions. All these, it gives you courage once you can cultivate compassion and indifference, that allows you to stand in that silence, that uncomfortable silence for a few seconds, where she's expecting you as a nice guy, beta guy, to fill that void, and you're not. You're just kind of smirking. Come over here and give me a kiss, baby. What are you waiting? You know you want to. Get over here. You know, I mean, you know, you're not sitting there trying to get appease her all the time. Yeah. And that's going to make her feel safe. Now, again, if you've been a lap dog for 20 years, it's going to take time for that transformation to occur in her mind. And she's tested the heck out of you the first month or two you're doing that. I mean, guys on this call can test. But once she knows that's the real you, different.
Well, and that's why that fit testing comes back into play too. Okay, it's because she doesn't believe it's for real this time. She doesn't believe you're going to stick on this deal, and she wants to make sure. So she's pinging you now. Okay, but the fit test has been turned around onto you, so she's pinging you instead of you're pinging her. And I think this is what creates a lot of messed up deal out here with a lot of guys on that. Is that's what they're used to, and that's what they expect. One of the things, I wrote these down because we'll bring these up in other times, but I want to get them out here. Compassionate indifference. So how does that look on a personified level? Okay, so we want to be aloof. Aloof, that's indifferent. Or aloof is not the same thing as indifferent. Okay, so I don't have a dictionary with me, but you can go look all those up. Aloof, indifferent, kind, and fascinating. There's this other part of it down here that somehow we forget. Okay, but on compassionate indifference, again, we're going back here under this umbrella we've been working with all day about string theory. Okay, number one is mystery. Number two, variety. Number three, compassionate indifference. This here, compassionate indifference, we brought these up during we've woven this whole conversation together here, but these identifiers right here, these triggers, you've got to be aloof. Okay, you got to be above the fray, aloof side. Indifferent, you're still in the world, you're still walking around down here on earth, but it's not going to phase you either way. But you still have to have, again, you have to be kind and loving. When you look at your percentages on there and you look at where we're trying to be 2/3 alpha, 1/3 beta. Okay, these right here, we're 2/3 here, we're 1/3 here. That's so all of our stuff still works out. Okay, this is the bonus that gets the tingles shooting off the page, the fascinating side. You have to be fascinating, interesting. Okay, you have to have something that comes in out of left field that's like, really, I didn't know you were into that. I didn't know you could do this.
That's that mystery again. You know, the fascinating part is that mystery. You know,
yeah.
And aloof is like, you know what? She's got to work a little harder to get your attention.
Yeah.
You don't just turn around. Yes, dear. Yes, dear. Did you need me, dear? Did you need me? Yes, dear. Yes, dear. That's not being aloof. Aloof is you slowly turn around if she wants you. You slowly turn around and you can engage with her, but you're not overreactive to her stimulus. You're a little more aloof. You're not rude, but you're establishing that you're a separate entity that's not at her beck and call, which makes her feel safe. Actually, it'll irritate her in the beginning, but it makes her lizard brain feel safe.
I think
And
this
then
is one.
the indifference is you're indifferent, like I was when I swatted my girl in the butt at the dance. Like, I'm indifferent to how she responds to me. I'm going to have a good day either way. My switch is going to remain up no matter how she responds. That's indifference.
To me, if you're giving her like instant response on everything all the time, and she rings the bell and you're hey, what do you want? Then you're showing that you've got nothing else going on, you know. And she doesn't want that. She wants you to have a mission, but she doesn't want to be the mission. And so, you know, that you've got to hold back on that kind of stuff. And and that's a huge beta play, you know, as a beta guy. You think, you know, that it's the whole phrase, happy wife, happy life, right? I bend over backwards, I please her, I do everything that she asked me to do, and then I'm going to get reciprocated what I want her to do. And, you know, how's that working for you?
Yeah.
It's not.
One of the concepts that you talk about is qualifying. Anytime you're qualifying yourself for someone, it's like you're laying your wares before the king or queen, in this case, the queen. You're laying your wares before the queen and asking for her approval. And if you're a man trying to get her turned on about you, you don't want to be the guy laying his wares before the queen asking for her approval, because she'll be quiet and appeased, but she will not be turned on by that at all. It will dry her up. But a lot of guys, especially beta guys, qualify themselves. Are you sure? Is this okay, honey? Now, what do you need? I thought you said you needed me a minute ago, and I'm here if you need me. I mean, if you're giving her that energy all the time, you're putting her above you. And because of hypergamy, she needs to think that you're above her, or she's not attracted to you, period. But every time you go up there and do show and tell, do you approve of this, dear? Do you approve of this, dear? Every time you do that, it appeases her, but she loses attraction exponentially every time that behavior happens. And it's called qualifying. Stop qualifying for her. Stop. Anytime you qualify for somebody, you automatically put them above you.
And all that shows that she's in control. That you're not in control. She's in control. If you're immediately answering, responding to phones and texts, and you're jumping every time, and I love that idea of laying your wares before the queen. You know, if you're doing all that stuff, you're saying that she's in control, and you're hoping somehow, some way that you can appease her. And that is not going to get any action that you're looking for.
And she'll stop squealing. I mean, she'll stop yelling at you. So it'll get quieter, but she's lost attraction for you that she'll never regain again as long as you continue that behavior. And that's not just intersexual dynamics. That's with anyone. You got a boss or anything. Anytime you're the one that's putting your wares before the king and asking for their approval, that's a bad power dynamic for you. I don't care if it's a job situation or whatever. It's a bad vibe. You want to get out of that quickly. Crusader, you're muted.
Hey, so you know, on the response time, that's real key. I don't want to stay here very long, but if you got to respond back to your text every time, every 2 seconds, okay? There's no mystery on any of that, okay? But on the power dynamic side, you're throwing yourself way down here again, okay? So just be careful on that. I want to move on. I don't want to. There's some things we've got to get to. We haven't even got flipping switches. I know that came up here a little bit, but we haven't even really gotten into that. I want to go right now to dry sense of humor, okay? Abednego, this is, I think, a really tough thing for a lot of guys for whatever reason, on dry sense of humor. And I think, you know, we always got some smart aleck guys hanging around in our class who they're involved in all kinds of different, you know, behavior here. This dry sense of humor can be a really tough deal. But let me say this on humor, okay, is that humor is a very straight line to intellectual capacity. Okay. It's an indirect indicator of intellectual capacity, of intelligence. And what we know is women, the two things they really can't stand to marry down on. One is security, obviously, the number one thing. And number two is they hate to think about, they marry down in intelligence. So dry sense of humor. Abednego, you got anything for us on that? That's number 4.
It's, I think it takes a lot of work to be funny. They always say the most talented actors are the ones who can be funny. And I believe that to be true, very much so. What we're kind of talking about is kind of being a little cocky funny, but it's not funny if you're cutting. If you're cutting someone, if you have to use a lot of sarcasm and cutting remarks to try to be funny, then all you're doing is just making her feel bad, and it's not working for you. And so it does take a lot of work. I think it takes a huge amount of intelligence to be funny, to know when to make that remark and when to hold back. And but it is definitely something that can get you a long way. It's definitely a string puller for sure.
Hey, Abednego, let me say this. You were there with me that night, and it's really, until you really get something like this smack you up in the face, it's really hard to understand sometimes, I guess, because this nuance about humor and timing, so much of it's timing, is just lost in our society. In this silly slapstick humor, we see all this goofy stuff on YouTube where none of it requires any intelligence at all. It's just somebody slapped somebody and everybody laughed. Or, how many times do we have to watch Home Funniest videos, where the guy ran into the patio glass and everybody laughed and carried on? Or somebody, what's going to happen every time they bring out a ball and some kid's kicking a ball around? Someone's getting kicked in the nards right away. And we know, but still, everyone's got to put this up. This is not what we're talking about here. Archie and I were one time at a banquet, and so we had some impromptu situation here where there were different groups that went up on the stage, okay, and they had to do some skit or sing or whatever it was. This one particular moment that stood out in the whole night above every single thing. There were, I think at the time, there were 3 girls in a group. Is that about right? And they go something like this.
Yeah.
And there were 3 girls up here, okay, and there was something about, the idea was, somebody from the crowd sends out one of the 26 letters of the alphabet. And so you say A, and one kid says something, and B, and whatever. There's one girl who dominated everybody. And it was the one who probably everyone least expected. Okay. Because I think at the time it was the eventual salutatorian or valedictorian up there. And she got spun all around over the place. Okay. But Abednego, this girl that everybody, she was the hero of everybody, okay? And we really didn't know, but what we did know was she ran circles around everybody, okay, mentally. And it stood out to us, and we talked about this for years, about this has got to be the smartest girl in the whole place, okay? And we didn't know anything. We don't know her grades. We don't know anything. All we know was, man, her synapse level, this girl was quicker than quick, okay? Or and so I think one of those things is that girls pick up on this too. Humor, okay? Witty response without being cutting, without being sarcastic. For in our house, this isn't something this isn't our deal. Cutting, sarcastic, put down people, this is not our deal. Abednego, you remember that night, how unbelievable that was, watching that whole thing go down?
I still remember that. And we talked about that night and that situation. We'll still talk about it. And that's been a few years back, but it changed, I think, the way that a lot of people perceived her. Cause she wasn't like super out there as far as like being confident and that kind of thing. She wasn't one of the big talkers or anything like that. But boy, I tell you what, when she got rolling, It was unforgettable. And she was so quick-witted that it was almost like you really had to work to stay up with her.
Yeah.
She was that quick-witted and just super, super funny. And man, it was a good time.
This girl could go do stand-up anywhere. I'm telling you.
Anywhere. Yeah.
And so, but it works the other way on dry sense of humor. Okay. This is catnip when we talk about cat and string and stuff, because every girl wants to know they're with a sharp fella. Okay. And there's no mistaking humor on this thing. Okay. Not only gets them the tingles, gets them emotionally involved, intellectually on that side of it. Okay. And then also as we go on to display high value here. This doesn't belong in here. I'm sorry about that. As we go to display high value, when we look at intelligence, that's up there. Okay. Ragnar, you got anything else on dry sense of humor, buddy?
You know, they call it muse mastery also, or like when she's starting to fit test you, or she's kind of cutting on you a little bit, you can tell she's kind of picking at a little bit. Another technique is agree and amplify. You know, I mean, if she says something, you can tell she's kind of she's trying to just put you down a little bit, just, you know, a little test to see if you're going to respond in a real emotional way. Instead, you just, yeah, you're right, 10 times that, you know, and just kind of it just takes the wind out of her sail, you know. Yeah. And so a few things like that, but it's the sense of humor, the dry sense of humor. What you don't want to be is you don't want to be Jim Carrey. I like to say you want to be more James Bond than Jim Carrey. You know, if you look at you saw like Casino Royale and stuff recently. There's humor there. There's a scene in Casino Royale where the British gal's talking to him. She's kind of emotional because she's falling for James, and she said, "James, if all was left of you was your head and your little finger, you'd still be more of a man than anybody I've ever known." And he leans forward quietly, and there's a pregnant pause. There's that compassionate indifference again, that pregnant pause. He's comfortable in the quiet, and he says, "That's because you know what I can do with my little finger." And that's how I responded to her.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's dry sense of humor, right?
Yeah.
That's funny, but he's not being Jim Carrey with the wah, 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 faces and all this kind of junk. You know, that's a turn off. It's funny, but it's not going to make her turned on. But that's a classic scene. The dry sense of humor is that, and so that's the difference.
And that
go ahead.
That kind of humor is harder. You know, there's a cheap humor out there that is that cutting, sarcastic, vulgar, those kind of things. That's a cheap funny, and that's not what she's looking for. She's looking for the expensive funny, the high price funny, and
protein funny. She wants protein funny.
Yeah,
protein, not cotton candy. I think, you know, when you look at these two here, so James Bond's going to give you that kind of answer. Jim Carrey's going to bend over and show his butt cheeks and act like an idiot. Yeah. Okay. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't work, and I'm not saying, you know, he gets millions of dollars doing that. Okay. There's a lot of things related to that. Okay. I remember one of the things that would come up a lot of times is that there's some things you can do without finishing the sentence. Okay. And one of the things, had one of our members send me a note here just now. We used to do this, and it worked every single time. It worked with you as long as you have a tone and that little, you know, twinkle in your eye about it. It didn't matter what it was. You just start the sentence, and you'll get them every time because everybody's a sucker for this, guys, girls, anyone. So whatever you're doing, and maybe you're in a bind here. Maybe you lost your keys. Maybe you can't find your credit card. Maybe, where's my phone? Listen, it's about, man, you know what they say about guys who lost their keys? Everybody will say, what? And you just look at them with that little stink eye, right? And you just look at them and say, you know, okay. So you know what they say about guys who have big pants? You know, okay, you don't have to finish it. I think too many times we try to choreograph things, right? And we turn into a mess here when we spell everything out. Just let it hang out there, okay? It's one of these deals, yeah? You know what they say about guys who control things with their little fingers? What would they say? What did they say? you know, okay, you don't have to, and I think it leaves that mystery back in there, okay? I don't know if you're talking about something naughty or something nice. I don't know, but either way, I want a Christmas present on this deal, okay? On this last one here, as we go back here to display high value, I think I got the right acronyms this time, so you can relax, fill in your notes on this. Display high value, okay? We got Bendigo, you got to go in about 13 minutes. So we're going to finish this in a few minutes. Then I want to go over some pitfalls before you get out of here. Okay. Display high value. I'm going to put in here flipping switches because I want to make sure we get that in here. Flipping switches. This was a concept. Again, I wish we had a recorder on this day, but we did not. Went and grabbed a Bendigo. We went to grab something to eat. It was probably 8 o'clock in the morning. We called Ragnar. We were on the phone for an hour and 20 developing this thing. Flipping switches. Ragnar, take it away on flipping switches.
Back in 1853, I believe, Henry David Thoreau said, most men live lives of quiet desperation. And that was when everybody went to bed with the sun and woke up with the roosters, and there was no electronics and social media. And life was hard, but it was simple. You know, you worked hard, you went to bed, read your Bible. And so I can only imagine it's got to be 100 times worse now for people than it was then, that most men and women are living lives of quiet desperation. And I think most people are walking around with their emotional switches turned down. Just like a light, just like a house, a switch in your house, it's turned down. And including yourself. And one of the things that's a closed loop, that if you can flip somebody else's switch up, it'll actually flip your switch up as well. And so what we try to do, and I it's kind of unconscious now, but I mean, when I'm in a store, a restaurant with my patients, family, whatever, I just try to go in and flip as many switches as I can in those environments. Now, if you're with a woman or there are women there, it's actually a demonstration of high value because you're socially dominant. Most people are shy. Most people are they're awkward socially. But when you walk in and you make everybody you come in contact with feel safe and feel important, where I teach my staff, I say every patient that comes in here has 2 invisible tattoos on their forehead. First one says, make me feel safe. And the second one says, make me feel important. And as long as you fulfill those 2 statements on their forehead, we're going to be successful, and they're going to feel great, and you're going to feel great. You know, I got that from Lou Holtz about 20 years ago. It made me feel safe, make me feel important. Everybody has that on their forehead. So if you flip their switch, you know, you talk to them, pump them up, good day, find something you can generally compliment about, ask them about their passions, tell them they're doing a fantastic job. You know, ask them questions about whatever. If you know them a little bit, you know what their passions are, what their favorite things are. Ask them questions about it. If not, ask what their passions are. What are you interested in? What do you do when you're off work? And then ask questions about that. Flip their switches. And it's impossible to flip other people's switches and you to stay in a depressed state yourself. It's impossible to do that. You can't make other people feel great and you still feel bad. It's impossible for that to happen. And then, you know, Bendigo can talk about this too. He's had some situations in life where he's used this technique exclusively, not only to help other people around him, but to help himself going through tough times.
Go ahead, Bendigo.
Yeah, it's been fairly recently. Had a pretty major surgery, and you know, my whole goal going into it was to flip every single switch of every single person that came through the door, and that's what I did. And it got to the point where I believe there were nurses, they were fighting over who was going to come and take care of me, because they knew that when they came in, I was going to make them feel good. I was going to make them feel important and valued, that they knew I appreciated what they were doing for me. I had a doctor that would come in and check on me, and every time he'd check on me, I'd say, how you doing today? And he finally goes, dude, will you stop doing that? I mean, I'm the doctor, you're the patient. I'm here to see how you're doing, you know? But it makes you feel better. You know, you're sitting there in a hospital bed, you don't feel good, you're recovering, you're in pain. And to see somebody light up, to come in the room because of something that you said, makes you feel better. And it really, I believe it really helped with my healing process for sure.
And it also took you out of a situation where a lot of people would feel out of control, and it puts you in control.
At
In
least I was in
situation-
control of something.
Yeah, a heck of a lot more in control than you would have been had you not done that. Because
Absolutely.
without that, you're at everybody's whim at that point. You know, the nurses, the docs, you're waiting and waiting and waiting. But when you decide there's an action that you can choose to take that not only helps other people but helps you, it gives you a sense of I have some control here. I'm not just flowing through the wind or a leaf on the ocean. I actually have some control. So it gives you. They talk about psychology, an external locus of control and an internal locus of control. When you have an external locus of control, you're bowing down before the queen to ask for approval of your wares. That's the external locus of control. When you're flipping switches, it puts you into a more internal locus of control, and you feel a little safer and less scared in a scary situation.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think what's funny is that I think we all do this automatically with little kids. You know, little kids, you get down at their level and you talk to them, and you know, if they look sad, you're doing all this stuff to try to make them happy, you know, trying to get them to smile or whatever. But for some reason, when we go to adult, we're like, who can, you know, we're not thinking that way. But man, if we can do that, it makes you the superstar. I mean, it's something that we've not talked about yet. I don't think. Maybe we talked about last. It was social dominance, you know. And man, it shows a lot of social dominance if you can command the room by flipping people's switches, and then everybody wants to come and see you. And if you're flipping switches, then other ladies will want to come to see you because you're giving them that attention. You're flipping their switch. You're changing their state. That adds into pre-selection. All this stuff plays really nicely together. But yeah, you're just in that spiral up where then you become the hero of the room, and then that lady on your arm is really glad to be on your arm.
She is not bored.
No, she's not bored.
Guys, we can all look back in our, you know, I got another, I do appreciate this too. I got another, and I got to keep on moving, but I got another text from or chat from another member here. We all can think back about a teacher or a person, an elder, a mentor, a neighbor, a church, whoever, who just, it didn't matter. It didn't matter if you found them in a hospital. They made you feel good. Okay, flipping switches, guys. This is display high value, and this is so key about all this. Remember, we're talking about string theory, how to keep that yarn moving, how to keep that laser dot moving along. Okay, and you keep flipping switches. Everybody, you come into the room, it doesn't matter. They know they're going to leave feeling better because they had presence to see you at that time. So I want to close out this string theory. Bendigo, you got to go in about 5-6 minutes. Let me go here real quick because I wrote some things down here that we've just got to get to, okay, on this. There's some common things, guys. We had a lot of people. Took some calls, had some texts the other day, came in yesterday from one of our guys. He's in Kentucky, and there's just a lot of things that happen. And so I want you to be aware of. Now, let me just break this down real quickly. Our whole thing here is 7 golden rings. So we have 7 classes. But if Abednego, we want to say the last one is about shame relief. So that's separate. That's a totally other weird animal that we've got to have. But so if you just take our first 6 classes, okay, so we're a third of the way through the content right now. And so these things will start showing up, guys. And this is common. We see this every single time, is that on the A-B scale, okay, guys will show up, and they've been beta for like ever. And they get a few little things here, Ragnar, and they want to run to the front of the class and do show and tell, okay? But there's a snapback effect. There's this whole effect here. It's like psychologically, hey, I got a few lines. I could do something here. I'm going to go try out my new stuff. You know, like we're doing some kind of sitcom routine here. But what happens is we overcorrect, Ragnar, on this sometimes, okay? And we do some damage. We start cutting on people, you know, because we want to get back to alpha real soon. So we figured out, man, if we just go bang someone over the head, they'll view me of some higher value, okay? So what I'm going to say is on here, work on mastery. Don't work on shortcuts. We're wanting something to stay for a long time. We're talking about permanence. We're talking about mastery here. We're not looking for a few quick pickup lines and how to get someone into bed, and that'll happen as a result of doing all this. That's a byproduct. But the snapback effect, I can't tell you how many times, Abednego, we have seen this over and over, okay? And I'm not saying you need to go snail's pace, because I think you can move faster than most people think on this. But let me get through this snapback effect. This other one, uneven launch. Guys, when we learn this stuff, right now, a lot of your minds are like, I can't even believe these guys are saying all this stuff. This is like, these are church people. What's going on here? And so what happens, they go get some books and they read some stuff, and then they launch way ahead of their family, way ahead of their wife, okay? Way ahead of their spouse, their date, whatever. There's an uneven launch here, and they go way out. You know, it's like a 100-meter dash. Someone got a 10-meter, 20, 50-meter race here. And you got to lead way out here because you got a 50-meter start. So you're left, in the meantime, your spouse, who was used to how things were for 30 years or 20 years or 5 or 10 years, they wake up one morning and you're way out down the road. You left them back here in an emotional mess. So this uneven launch, okay? And what we found is the people who can include their wife, their spouse, their significant other, the person who can include them quicker along this way, okay? Max. So what you can find now on this situation is that the sooner you can get them involved. For me, you know, because we've had people ask this question all the time. Hey, am I supposed to tell my wife about all this stuff? You know, I can't answer that question for you. For me, when I order a book, my spouse gets a book. We're both reading it. We have the same vocabulary, same thought process. That's not everybody's deal. I understand that. That's what we do on uneven launch. Just be careful here. It goes to the next one. We'll go on number 4 here. Leave the toys outside right here. Ragnar, give me a 1-minute breakdown on this, what we're talking about and what people get into.
Well, I've been in martial arts for about 40 years, and you always have a danger of a guy gets their gift certificate in the mail or a newspaper, comes by the strip mall, some McDojo in a strip mall next to McDonald's, and he gets his 2 free karate lessons. And then he gets a couple beers in him at a bar, and all of a sudden he thinks he's going to clean house. He's going to have a hard night, you know. And so there's a saying with this material, this stuff works. If you think this stuff doesn't work, and you say, I'm not going to try it because it doesn't work, you're doing yourself and your spouse a huge disservice. It works. It's tested. Everything we're discussing about in here works. Tested works. But if you just do a little bit of it, then one of the famous guys that kind of developed this years ago said it's like giving dynamite to children, because it's powerful material. But it's like basketball. Guys on here, basketball guys. If you don't keep the fundamentals sound and master the fundamentals, you don't want to start playing jazz until you can read sheet music. So master the fundamentals. Master the fundamentals. I'll say it again. Master the fundamentals, and then play jazz.
You know,
in martial arts, you know, we don't throw a guy into a 3-on-1 attack with a knife, first class. You know, I mean, that takes time to build up that software, and so there's fundamentals here. And then once you have those fundamentals down and they're unconscious competence, then you can walk in and say, okay, I'm going to take these 2 things and I'm going to put them together and make this 3rd thing and that kind of thing. But the fundamentals are the fundamentals in anything. I mean, in my profession, martial arts, basketball, and this stuff, it's essential. And there's a lot of people that put together.
Ragnar, one of these things that we know is we've all had this somewhere. We got a new bike. We got a new tricycle. Maybe that's the best one. You got a new tricycle and it's summer, and every day you can't wake up and the lights up, sun's up at 6 a.m. and we go ride that bike all day long. So someone has to keep yelling at you. It's dark. Come in and eat. There's a part of this thing on this curriculum, Abednego, where we got our new toy now. Okay. We got our books, man. We found out, we went to Google stuff or stuff on the internet, and we spent all night long till 3 a.m. And listen, this is our new toy. There's a part of this for the sake of family, for the sake of your relationship with your spouse, your date, whoever. Listen, somewhere along the way, you got to put that toy outside and come on back in with the rest of the humans on this side. You know, and I can't, stress this enough, because it comes up, all these uneven launch, toy outside, work on mastery. Look, we all had a new toy, the new car, whatever, the new phone. We're sitting in there playing on this. Put the toys away. Okay. Now we're all excited. What book is it? I want to go read that. I'm going to go order on Amazon. Then I'm going to go look up 50 more things on Reddit, and I'm going to stay up all night. I'm going to do all that. I'm going to learn every line out there, and I'm going to work. I'm going to be an alpha beta. I'm going to get this scale right. I'm going to do this tomorrow. Okay. Well, listen, man, everything got wrecked over 30 years. You're not going to fix it tomorrow. Stop. Put your toys away. Okay. Get back in with the house, with the humans, and start being a regular person again. Now, I've been here. Okay, Jim, got a buddy over here in India I worked with for a long time on this deal, on the marketing side. And we were like this in marketing. You start to learn how to write copy, and you start to do this, so Abednego, there's a lot of things you see in the ministry side like this too, okay? And this is just one of these things. I put these up. We're going to see these again because I'm going to keep putting them on here on these pitfalls. We all are subject to all this stuff, okay? Depending on who we're reading and what our books are, or whatever it is. So, Abednego, you got to get running. Anything closing out on your side? Because I'm gonna turn the recorder off here in a minute, and then we got some people who want, if they have questions or whatever, I'll be around here for a little bit. Abednego, before you got to go.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm thinking about right now is, I go to a lot of conferences and seminars and things like that, and they talk about, trying to drink out of a fire hose when you're there. There's lots of information, and there's lots of ideas and things that are being thrown out there. And the caveat always is, don't try to do every single thing that you're learning all at once, because you're just going to blow everything up. People aren't going to follow you if you just try to turn the ship on a dime. And so, like you were saying, it took 30 years to 20 years, 10 years, whatever, to get in your condition. You're not going to get out of it overnight. And so there's lots of information that you're getting, and you'll have to go back to this information over and over and over until you've got it. It's a part of you. It just comes out. We get to the point where a lot of times we can finish each other's sentences because you've heard it so many times, how it's going to be. And so, you've got to begin to work on this, but take it slow. That uneven launch thing is huge. You don't want to leave your spouse behind. You don't want to leave your wife behind. And that can happen. You go running after this, information, and you take off, and you've left her back in the dust. And then she feels left out. She doesn't feel safe anymore. She doesn't feel important anymore. And so, it's a huge part of this, is that, take it slow. Don't try to apply everything overnight. It's not going to work. But, start applying little things at a time, taking back that ground a little bit at a time. One of the things I always like to talk about, you can have revolution or you can have evolution. And revolution's blood and guts. It's going to be blood and guts, and you can get a fast effect, but it's very painful. Evolution is something that happens over time, and we can get into micro and macro evolution if you want to, but
maybe we'll save that for another day.
We'll save it for another day. But evolution, evolving that thing slowly, that'll stick. And that's what you want in your relationship. You want it to stick. And so I would say apply the information, get to know it, get a handle on it, get to learn it learn it so you can teach it. If you can teach it, then you know it. And then you can start applying it.
Thanks, buddy. I know you got to get running. We will check with you next time. We're going to go irrefutable law number 1. I'm going to be on here for a minute. I'll turn the recorder off here in a second. Irrefutable law number 1 is keep the bears away. So we'll do that next time. Thanks, buddy.
I'll
you be
catch
good,
up
man.
with you guys.
Yep. Thank you. Yep. You bet.